Greetings sailors and welcome back to another Patreon replay, and this time it is a ranked game from Andy CX here, who is in the Grozovoi. Perhaps notable, or maybe not that notable, I don't know how common it is because I've not been playing ranked, but yeah, there's two super ships in this one. There's a pair of Yamagiris, and as I say, I don't know if there's been lots of people playing them in ranked or if it's reasonably uncommon because I haven't been playing ranked this season, so who knows. I think at this stage, however, it was a choice between 12 and 8 kilometer torps, and I'm pretty sure the current patch just changed that to 12 and 20 kilometer torps. So that's something to bear in mind. There's going to be one or two drops you see here where they run out rather unexpectedly because they are much shorter range than one would expect. And Wargaming obviously looked at the data and went, yeah, the 8 kilometer ones aren't doing much. And with the proliferation of radar and powerful hydro these days at higher tiers, yeah, it's no wonder. Anyway, so an early torp drop has netted one hit into presumably one of their destroyers. They've just lost their own Yamagiri to Hiroshima, but their Yamagiri had put out their own torpedoes, so we're actually going to see in a moment one of the enemy Shimas get sunk. Meanwhile, Andy has managed to help cap this C cap, but the enemy team looks like they're going to get the middle, and the A cap seems to be where quite a few of their ships are. There's what, 3 or 4 ships down there. And meanwhile, there is a lone, well, I say alone, they're not really alone if they're together, but the Kremlin and the Stalingrad, and the Kremlin looks like they've actually run aground into an island, so I don't think they're going to last that long, although we'll see. We'll see, because you'd think they would get focused fairly hard, but with the islands in the way, maybe not quite as hard as you would think. Maybe they'll last longer than you would think, anyway. Of the enemy ships, the one battleship that's supporting their destroyers is that GK in the middle, and Andy is well aware of the hydro that thing has. He's putting out its torps anyway, I think just on the off chance that there might be a destroyer peeking around that side of the island, or maybe the GK might feel like backing up to get some shots. Who knows? It is a little... I mean... Sometimes these speculative drops can be unexpectedly very, very useful, but other times, especially if you have a long torpedo reload, they can end up costing you, and the Grozovoi does have a reasonably long torpedo reload. So, yeah, it's not going to have them available for at least another minute at this point. I think it's almost a 2-minute reload. It's not quite that bad, but it's fairly bad. But yeah. So he doesn't have any available should that GK start backing out around the island to start working in with his secondaries, for instance. We can see the GK's hydro there, and Andy plinking away at the Yamagiri, who is rapidly running out of health but also trying to run away as best they can. But if Andy had some torpedoes right about now, or even a little bit earlier than he's about to get some, he would maybe be able to drop on GK and at least scare them back in around the island. But as it is, he's having to try and get some distance between himself and the GK, and is using up one of his precious consumables in the process, because I don't think he's got a superintendent on this captain, or maybe he does. Maybe the Grozovoi just doesn't have that many base level consumables to work with. I don't know. I don't actually have one, so yeah, I'm sort of speaking from only looking at the stats. So yeah, now he gets to drop, but it's unlikely that he's going to hit, unless the GK keeps kind of backing up. Who knows? Now there are the Yamagiri torps, which is it's kind of a scary looking spread, but they all run out because, yeah, they are not particularly long range. So I think those must have been the 8 kilometer ones, and yeah. They're not particularly useful. Was it even the 8? Was it a choice between the 8 and the 12, or was it a choice between the 8 and the 20? I can't remember. It was something that was a bit weird and clearly wasn't working very well. If Wargaming then changed it fairly quickly. Anyhow, it looks like actually some of those torps are going to hit. Won't be a fatal blow, but that's going to be 3. Yep. And that's a fair chunk of damage off the GK. No floodings though, alas. But hopefully that is enough to take them out. But yeah, if he might have been able to launch them earlier, and he might have been able to land more hits potentially if he hadn't done that speculative drop before. But who knows? That's just pure supposition on my part. So there goes the Yamagiri. They do get some more torps off though, and the allied GK actually takes 2 of them, which is a fair chunk of health, because, you know, Japanese torps do a lot of damage. The enemy team is now down to only 1 destroyer, Shima, and their own team's surviving Shima is also looking not very healthy. So I don't know why their Shima's being quite so aggressive trying to find the enemy Shima when it's not going to go well for them if they do find the enemy Shima, which they have. And, well, we can see exactly how that went. I'm not entirely sure why they did that, but anyway, it's a bit late now. So all that's left at this point is Andy, the GK, that Montana that's here as well, and the Kremlin, who somehow had survived all that. The Stalingrad kind of, well, you can see where the Stalingrad died down in, what was that, like G2? Somehow they managed to press all the way around to there before they... why would you do... I don't know. Randoms and ranked games are not that far apart in the scheme of things. They really aren't. The focus might be a little more. Is it even really that different? Not really. Not with the way that it works with the domination maps, and it's just smaller teams and randoms basically. I mean, the goal is, I suppose, different in terms of trying to get to higher ranks and getting some steel out of it. But yeah, they really are quite different from randoms, I suppose. Anyway, there's the Shima's torps, so we know they aren't going to have any immediately available. Hopefully this early warning gives the allied battleships some time to do something about it, but, well, now it's just that Kurfürst left. The Shima, as it turns out, still just sat in the smoke. They hadn't moved off, so that is going to be, hopefully, a reasonably easy kill for Andy. The Grozovoi is always going to outgun a Shima, given the respective health pools they have, especially given the Grozovoi has got a heal available. And now that they are down, that's the biggest sort of high damage threat taken out to the Montana, but there's still 2 enemy battleships and a cruiser that could, that are whacking away at the Montana. The Montana's not actually backing off, they're just kind of going face first in, so yeah, I mean, maybe it's that stage of things where people feel like they really need to commit and get stuck in, but yeah, I don't know if that was the right time to commit, but in the middle of things, when the adrenaline's going, you know, sometimes you make the calls and it's easy to make the wrong one in the heat of the moment. So another smoke expended to try and help finish off this GK, who is hopefully not going to push into Hydro range, but yeah, that seems unlikely. They're trying to not get too close. So Andy can just sit here and pew away and try and set some fires. Actually, after having set some fires, he maybe could have switched to AP here, but the HE is still fairly effective. Just looking at the way he's spreading it around, yeah, he's trying to get multiple fires going on this GK. Try and speed up the process. There we go, Montana just blithely charging in. They actually did have a reasonable amount of health, but yeah, they decided to... I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if nothing else, keeping out secondary range of the Kurfürst would have been a good idea. You can't really stay away from the Thunderer lobbing HE at you and setting all of the fires, and of course the Hindi's going to be firing off all of the HE as well in an effort to finish this guy off. But at the point where the GK died, potentially the Montana could have been in a further away position where they maybe could have backed behind the island again, or even just gotten themselves unspotted, but no, as it is. Now Andy is the last one left alive on his own team versus 2 enemies. The good news is, though, they have 2 caps, and there's less than 10 minutes to go. In fact, there's less than 9 minutes to go at this point. Here's where that long torpedo reload is going to be a bit of a pain, though, and I'm not sure he's got adrenaline rush on this captain. Somebody in the comments might be able to tell me if that's so, but here's where a quicker reloading torpedo boat would have had an advantage. He can't really... Like, he can try and stop the Thunderer from capping with torpedoes, but with the time in between the torpedo reloads, yeah, and he can't really do much about the Hindi, and it does look like these pair are maybe thinking about splitting apart. They're sort of both heading into the middle. I mean, the Thunderer is clearly heading to this side of the B cap. The Hindi may be heading to the opposite side, or they may be trying to go to the C cap to stop the bleeding in points, but yeah, if they can, like, I can see Andy's thinking here, if he can get this cap, if he can stop them getting points, even as they are trying to get the B cap themselves, he can at least, like, you don't get points while you're capping, you're stopping the enemy team getting points while you're capping. So, as this exchange of caps is happening, he's still getting points from them having the C cap, so this is I think the right call here is to get this cap, and he can also potentially still land some torpedoes. So he's going to fire some off, and he's banking on this guy slowing down. He also has a chance to do some sneaky shots here, although he's being relatively cautious about it. He just needs to get a couple of resets there. So there we go. Actually gets a pair of reset flags and a fire, although are they going to let that fire burn? It looks like they are. Either that or they don't have their damage control available. So that little couple of ticks of fire is enough to get the Confederate. He's almost gotten the cap. It'd be nice to get a reset on that mid cap though. They are ahead now by going on 200 points. We're down to about 6 minutes. Really the main risk here is if Andy gets sunk, and it is looking like that Hindi is trying to go for the C cap. If they'd ganged up and tried to go for Andy, that might well have been a better move on these enemies' parts, but because they've split up to try and get the caps, and it's kind of like in this situation versus the destroyer, it's kind of tricky. Like, what can you do other than try? Now here's where Andy makes a bit of a near fatal move, in that he's firing his guns to get some more resets, and because it's the Thunderer, oh boy, it hurts. It really hurts. I don't know if that would have been enough to kill him, but you know, there were a couple of shots that missed, so yeah, potentially. I think there was an element of luck there. I think he maybe didn't need to make that shot in hindsight, just to get that extra couple of resets, because we're over 900 points now, and with the C cap and the A cap now ticking away. Yeah, so Andy, you know, this could have been a very different end to this replay. This could have been Andy taking a winning situation and giving it away by taking those shots trying to get the reset, probably unnecessarily. But as it was, he got lucky. It didn't kill him, and we are now just steadily marching towards 1,000 points. And there we go. The Hindi has only just reached the C cap, so yeah, I think those two remaining enemies really should just have remained together and maybe tried to box Andy in. And you know, if they'd capped the B cap and together, which they would have then been able to cap the B cap a lot quicker between them, and then tried to come towards the A cap to try and box Andy in. Yeah, I mean, it's not without risks, but yeah, Andy's very risky behaviour himself notwithstanding, I don't think there was elsewise much chance of the enemies winning at that point without Andy doing that kind of thing, you know, and giving himself away and giving them something to shoot at. Anyway, 2,800 base XP, over 1,000 XP more than the next person on the team, and ended up single-handedly winning that one, even if he almost at the same time ended up single-handedly losing it as well. But yeah, it's the kind of thing where, like I was saying earlier, you know, sometimes these things in the heat of the moment seem like a good idea, and then you look back at it and it's like, oh wait, yeah, maybe that wasn't such a good idea after all. Anyway, so hopefully you have enjoyed this replay from Andy, and if you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.